Welcome to another Todd's
2-Minute Tech Tip Tuesday.
brought to you by the National RV Training Academy, the largest hands-on RV training academy in America. Hey, before we get to the video, which I know this is the reason why you're here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss anything. Hit the subscribe button now. Thank you. Now, back to our Tech Tip Tuesday. I've got a couple questions, one on batteries and then one on batteries. All right, here we go. This is from William McBroom T16V. Nope, T6V. Fantastic videos. Well, thank you. I love all the information you provide. Oh, surely. Keep on going. Come on. All right. Hopefully you can help me. There's a little background on my information. I just bought a 2019 Forest River Sabre. Okay, there's a residential fridge that is equipped with a 1,000-watt inverter. It has two batteries. I believe they're 80 amp hours each. Okay. The battery reads 13.6 when plugged into shore power. Actually, you're reading the output of the converter, but I'll describe that. They read 12.6 when at rest. That means whenever the converter is either in float mode or not plugged in. It has a lippert leveling system, and I have two problems. The first, the camper will not self-level when it's on batteries or plugged into my truck. Okay? Now, when it self-levels, it's a heavy load. Okay? You got two 80 amp hour batteries, and that lets me know there's not enough pressure coming from those batteries in order to handle the heavy load, whether pressure or flow. Okay? That's my first thought. I don't know. I'm going to keep reading. Okay? When you're plugged into shore power, which is what you're about to describe, leveling system works perfectly because your converter is doing the work. All right. It will level when plugged into shore power or my generator, right? Shore power or generator. Two different forms of electricity go into the converter, and the converter's doing the work. All right. Second, when I'm unplugged from shore power and turn on the inverter runs for about 5 or 10 minutes and then starts clicking, right? A little relay inside it, right? It's actually not a relay. There's a contact, like letting it. Does it have sufficient pressure and amperage or not, right? So this is what you're hearing. It's contact inside, opening and closing. The batteries drop to 12.4, and then they read 12.2 when the inverter starts clicking. It clicks for a couple minutes and then shuts off. There's no display error message. I don't boondock that often, but when I do, I drink a Dos Equis. I'm sorry. I don't boondock often, but I hate owning something where a feature doesn't work. Any ideas? Where do I head next? In both situations, you're telling me about your batteries, okay? You got two 80 amp hour batteries, and for whatever reason, they're not producing enough flow to handle the heavy loads. An inverter is a heavy load, okay? It's going to take 10 times the current, step it up to 120 volts, okay? That's how it works. Also, your landing gear, very heavy, okay? And so it requires a lot. It could be you have a loose connection between the batteries, right, and your sources, okay? I'm sorry, for your demands. It's probably, on the positive side, it's probably going over to a bus bar of some system. I would first clear those. If you have a loose connection, stuff works when there's very little flow. Lights work just fine, fan would work, but on a heavy load, like landing gear, it's going to need a lot of flow. Well, loose connection is going to prevent that. It'll also prevent the inverter from working, okay? Could also be on the negative side, right? You follow the negative down, it's going to frame. Is it loose? Is it tight? Something like that. It could also be just the condition of your batteries. Okay, now you got two 80 amp hour batteries. This is a 2019. I don't know how old the batteries are, but I'm presuming 2019. Okay, they take a charge, but they don't hold a charge. They're probably dipping way too low whenever there's a demand. All right, so we need to clear, is it a loose connection or is it just some bad batteries? Okay, you're doing right by watching the voltage drop. That's what we call that, watching the voltage drop. Now, right now, it's still high enough. This leads me to believe that you may have a loose connection somewhere. So I'd check those. All right, great question. There's one more. Here's another battery question. This is from Josh Online. Hey, Todd and crew. Who else is doing this stuff? Just me, right? I'm the only one out there at a school that's giving you free information. Name a school that's giving you free information for so many years. Exactly. What do you mean crew? All right. Anyway, no, I got a great crew. All right. Love the tech tips. Thank you for doing them. I have an odd scenario. No, you don't. Right? We all think that. Like, hey, no one's ever done this before. No one's ever seen this before. You're in good company. It's happened. All right. I have an odd scenario for you. I have a DC to DC charger for my truck alternator that keeps my house batteries, 410 amp hours of lithium, charged while the engine is running. Okay? Now, depending on that DC to DC charger, it's probably only pushing about 30 amps. All right. If you actually even have that, because the alternator is going to take care of everything in the truck first. Okay? Distance is resistance. It's going to be a while for it to get back there. And then it has to actually be higher than 30 amps because it takes energy to change energy. But, here we go. All right. My onboard generator will charge the house battery, but at a much lower charge rate than the DC to DC charger. I'm calling BS, but okay, I'm going to keep reading. Okay? This would be odd. Means you got a bad converter or a loose connection on the converter side, right? So plain and simple. Because we don't sell in the RV space a 30 amp charger or less. Okay? 45 amps is the smallest they make. So if you're saying that your converter charges at a slower rate than your DC to DC charger, okay, then that lets me know where the problem is over on the converter section. However, this is what his possible fix is. Do you see any issues with leaving the coach converter circuit breaker switched in the off position and then adding a DC to DC charger to the output of the generator? I see a lot of problems with that, so that the battery charges faster. Your generator produces AC, alternating current. Okay? It produces an AC signal. Your solution is to add a DC to DC charger. The input is DC, the output is DC. I see a big problem by taking the output of your generator, AC, and running it through a DC device, right? It only happened once, but you let the magic smoke out. All right, I get what you're trying to do. All right, rather than do that, I'm going to still say what's wrong with the converter and replace the converter, okay? If there's a problem with the converter. Could be a loose connection, okay? A loose connection between the converter and the battery, okay? Again, that intermittent operation would also lower how much flow you would have, okay? I think that's where your problem is. But let me go ahead and finish reading. What about the possibility of adding some relay and using the currently installed DC to DC? No, can't work, okay? DC to DC charger. The only time that this would need to reconnect to the coach converter circuit breaker is when the coach is hooked up to shore power and not using the inverter. Okay. Here's the thing. I think you have a loose connection between your converter and your batteries, okay? Or the converter's going out. So again, what you would need to do is check the output at the converter. Is it 13.6 volts? Okay. If you see something less than 12, okay, then your converter's gone. Now, if you got 13.6 volts there when you're plugged into shore power or the generator, right, you also want to check the voltage at the battery, right, because volts runs downhill. If the converter is on and it's producing 13 volts, unless there's a heavy load, you're going to see roughly 13 volts at the battery. Now, voltage drops when there's a heavy load. So don't have on the inverter or something like that while we're doing this test, right? Just, you can turn off the lights, everything else. But voltage should equal out. If it's connected, right, in a circuit, whatever my source is, 13.6 volts, I should see nominally 13.6, 13.5 at the battery, okay? Now, whenever you turn on a load, right, check it, voltage, and if we see it squat, boom, as soon as there's a load, like big, like it drops 0.4 volts or more, okay? One, it'd have to be a super heavy load, but two, loose connection, or the battery's not holding its charge. It's just like the other question there. I'm thinking loose connection or bad battery. When the converter's connected to shore power, you said you had plenty of charging power. No. So automatic transfer switch, it could be in there. The only difference between shore power, right, signal coming in from the pedestal, and the generator, there's an automatic transfer switch inside there. Could be the automatic transfer switch. The contact on the generator side is iffy. Okay, kind of hard to test that, okay? But if it's in the automatic transfer switch, then you should also see bad performance of other AC devices. Somewhere I'm thinking bad connection, okay? Well, there you go. 2 questions where we think it's the battery or a bad connection. There's your tech tips. All right, before you get to the bloopers, which is why you're here in the first place, the RV industry needs thousands of RV technicians and inspectors, and now is the perfect time to do that. If you want to make more money or have more control over your time, go ahead and click the link below. Or if you just want to learn how to fix your own RV, got something for you there. Head over to rvtechcourse.com and get started today. Now for the reason that you're out there in the video, roll the bloopers. 9E. Sorry, I'm gonna keep going. Lonely, only. O9E. O-N-9-E-Y. O9E. O9E.